You got a raise last year. Maybe a decent one. 4%, 5%, maybe even 8. And yet, right now, if I asked you how much is sitting in your savings account, the number wouldn't feel that different from where it was before the raise. That's not a coincidence. And it's not because you're bad with money. There's a mechanism at work. A quiet, almost invisible system that absorbs every salary increase before it can ever reach your financial life. And most people go their entire careers without ever seeing it. Today, we're going to look at exactly how that mechanism works, 3 specific reasons why a higher salary doesn't translate to actual wealth, and none of them are what most financial content tells you. Let's use a real example. Not hypothetical, just real enough that you'll recognize it. Someone in their late 20s or early 30s, working in a mid-sized company in Chicago, London, or Frankfurt. A solid, respectable job. Marketing coordinator, junior analyst, software support, HR generalist. The specific title doesn't matter. 2 years ago, they were earning $48,000 a year. After taxes, state taxes, Social Security, they took home around $3,200 a month. They were a little tight, but they managed. Rent, car payment, student loans, groceries. Not comfortable, but functional. Then came the raise. Now they're at $62,000. After taxes, about $4,050 a month. Almost $850 more every single month. That's real money. That should change things. But if you sat with this person today and looked at their bank account, you'd find almost nothing has changed. The number on their paycheck is bigger. The number in their savings account is not. Why? The first reason is something economists call lifestyle inflation, but that name makes it sound like a choice. It isn't really. It's a reflex. When income rises, the standard of living rises automatically, not because the person decided to upgrade their life, but because the upgraded life became available and the brain said yes before they ever thought about it. The $48,000 a year version of this person had a studio apartment 40 minutes from the office. It was fine. They didn't love it, but they didn't question it. At $62,000, a one-bedroom in a better neighborhood. It's $400 more a month. Not extravagant, just a small, reasonable upgrade. They deserved it. The old car was a 2014 Honda Civic, paid off, reliable. At the new salary, a lease on something newer felt manageable. $320 a month. That's just $10 a day. It sounds reasonable when you say it that way. The real math. Monthly take-home increase plus $850. Better apartment minus $400. Car lease upgrade minus $320. Dining out, streaming, wardrobe minus $150. Net improvement to savings minus $20. The raise was absorbed. Not dramatically, not recklessly, just quietly, one reasonable decision at a time. This is why lifestyle inflation is so difficult to catch. Each individual upgrade is defensible. The apartment is sensible. The car is reasonable. The dinners out are earned. But together, they consume the entire increase before a single dollar reaches the future. And here's what's rarely discussed. This pattern doesn't fix itself with the next raise. It scales with it. The second reason is one that almost nobody talks about clearly, because it requires understanding something about how income tax actually works. Most people believe that getting a raise is straightforwardly good news on paper, and it is mostly, but the raise doesn't arrive in full. A portion of it is immediately captured by the tax system, and depending on where you live, this can be significant. In the United States, moving from $48,000 to $62,000 in taxable income doesn't put you into a wildly different bracket, but the marginal dollars are taxed at 22% federally. Add state tax, Social Security, and Medicare, and the effective cost of those extra gross dollars shrinks considerably. So when someone mentally thinks, I'm earning $14,000 a year more, they're actually receiving something closer to $9,200 more after deductions, about $770 a month in real take-home. Not $850, not $1,100, $770. What a $14,000 raise actually delivers. Gross raise, $14,000 a year. Federal marginal tax, 22%, minus $3,080. State tax plus FICA, estimated about 8%, minus $1,120. Actual take-home increase, about $9,800 a year, about $815 per month. The gap between what a raise looks like on paper and what it feels like in your account is real. And when your brain is already counting on the full gross number, when you've mentally allocated the lifestyle upgrade before the paycheck arrives, you've already overspent money that was never fully yours. This isn't a criticism of the tax system. It's simply an observation that most people don't adjust their expectations to match post-tax reality. They plan for the gross. They live on the net. The difference disappears into the gap. The third reason is the least visible, but in many ways the most powerful. It's about what happens socially when your income rises. When someone earns more, their reference group shifts. The people they compare themselves to, consciously or not, are no longer the people they compared themselves to before. At $48,000, you have lunch at whatever place is nearby. You don't think twice about it. Your colleagues are in the same bracket. The social baseline is the same. At $62,000, something subtle changes. Maybe you get invited into a different group of coworkers. Maybe the job title changes and the people around you spend differently. Maybe it's just internal, a new self-image that comes with a higher number on your paycheck. And that new self-image has a price tag, a different restaurant, a vacation that you can finally afford, gifts that feel more proportionate to your new status, clothes that match a slightly upgraded professional identity. None of this is vanity. It's psychology. It's the way the human brain operates in social environments. We calibrate to the people around us. We spend to match who we believe we are or who we're becoming. The problem is this: the spending that comes with a higher social identity is often the most expensive spending of all. It isn't one big purchase, it's dozens of small ones, each of them feeling like they belong to the life you're now supposed to be living. Long-term cost compounded over 10 years. Monthly lifestyle gap from all three reasons, about $750 a month absorbed. If invested at 7% annually instead, about $129,000 over 10 years. Actual additional savings from the raise, about $0. Over a 10-year career, this pattern, repeated through each salary increase, creates a gap of over $100,000 in wealth that should have existed but doesn't. Not because the money was wasted, because it was spent on the idea of a higher life rather than the foundation of one. So what does someone who avoids this pattern actually do differently? It's not that they're more disciplined in any dramatic sense. It's more that they've separated two things that most people keep together: their income identity and their spending identity. When income rises, the default human response is to let lifestyle rise with it, because the brain interprets higher income as permission. A financially aware person doesn't grant that permission automatically. They make the decision deliberately, with numbers, not feelings. The practical version of this looks something like a rule. When a raise arrives, the first question isn't "what can I now afford?" It's "what percentage of this goes to the future before I decide anything else?" Not a specific percentage. That depends entirely on the person's situation, but the sequence matters. Future allocation first, lifestyle adjustment after if anything remains. This isn't about sacrifice. It's about order of operations. There's also a quieter piece of this, one that's harder to articulate but important to name. The people who consistently build wealth through their working years tend to have a stable self-image that isn't tied to their income bracket. They're not spending to signal a new tier of success. They spend based on what they value, not what their salary suggests they should be able to afford. That's a fundamentally different relationship with money, and it can't be taught by a spreadsheet. It comes from understanding why you make the financial decisions you make in the first place. Here's the honest summary of what we covered today. A raise, on its own, doesn't move your financial position because three forces are already waiting to absorb it. Lifestyle inflation expands to fill the new space, taxes reduce the real increase before it arrives, and social identity shifts the baseline of what feels normal to spend. None of these are moral failures. They're predictable, documented patterns that affect most working people regardless of intelligence or income level. Understanding them is the first step to interrupting them. The goal isn't to stop enjoying your income.
It's to stop confusing a higher salary with financial progress, because they're not the same. They can be, with some deliberate structure, but they aren't by default. If this gave you a useful frame for thinking about your own income, a subscribe helps us keep making content that looks at money this way, calmly, clearly, without the noise.